you have to take that with a grain of salt there. But thank you so much. I've always been a great friend of the chairman and really love what the Texas Legislative Black Caucus has done under his leadership. They indeed are a great ally for truth and justice under his leadership, and wherever you find injustice happening around the state, there's no political calculus that's measured. You see TLBC standing up under Ron Reynolds' leadership, and we really appreciate that. Today we've assembled groups to come and speak to you about what's actually happening with SB17. Sadly, the hearings were set during a time when students are having final exams or have left town. So the hearings were set at a time to be make it uncomfortable for us to appear and make it very difficult for us to appear and show our voices. Number two, there's the 2-minute limit that's placed on us in being able to speak there. And we know from this morning and when they laid out SB17, all of the somewhat heresy that's actually put forth in reference to it. Thank goodness that Senator West responded to correct the record on that. But we thought that you needed to hear more than what you would hear there in the room today. So some of us came together to decide to have this news conference and to bring you the information about what's really at stake and what's really occurring. You know, we're very much, for example, in support of our Jewish citizens. We saw the discussion that occurred today. The NAACP has always been very supportive and very much integrated. Our board now has Jewish members. Some of our founders had Jewish members. But the bottom line, you heard one of the speakers this morning talk about Jew hate. Well, SB17 is about black and brown hate, okay? You cut it to the chase and you understand if you're against hate, you should be against hate. But SB17 has a clear component. So what we have here today is we have a number of young people with the state NAACP that are going to speak today and tell you about what's occurring on our campuses. We're going to have a student from Prairie View, a student from Texas Southern, possibly students from the University of Texas, and we're going to have our youth advisor who has been in communication with our units around the state to assess the damage that they've felt as a result of both SB17 and the Creighton letter that came after SB17 that seemed to redefine and change what SB17 meant. Then we're going to hear from our Legislative Black Caucus that has been a leader on this effort, and we see where a number of the issues that are being discussed today and some of the smoking guns that have been developed, such as the number of 62 or the commitments that were made before the bill was passed to lure people into voting for the bill that the universities have turned their backs on and basically reneged on the deal. And so we're going to have leadership from them. We're going to have leadership from the Mexican American Legislative Caucus to talk about that as well. Our AAUP affiliate that has really been a lion in this effort. They have done such an incredible job around the state because there are clear consequences that are occurring at most every university, particularly within the UT system, which is truly intriguing to us because there seems to be a real focus by the right wing on the University of Texas, and the consequences seem to be more harsh. The university seems to be more in line with the extreme right wing, and so that's an issue. So AAUP will speak about that and the real consequences of what these efforts will do to our universities. And we have really our litigation leader around the country, the Legal Defense Fund, that has no one that is superior than LDF in terms of its litigation prowess and even its recent victory up in South Lake in terms of being able to get the Office of Civil Rights, the Department of Education, to hold that the South Lake School District was violating the rights of African American students. And so even in this incredible time, they were able to achieve that, like our friends at IDRA were able to achieve something similar for districts such as Lubbock and Slayton and all that. So we're really pleased to be here with such a great group of individuals. So let me just briefly go over what my comments are. As illustrated in the New York Times piece by Nicholas Confessor, SB17 is about race. Let's understand. You can hear all the demagoguery and all that over on the other side. The whole motivation was to go after black and brown people, and others are collateral damage. But DEI programs were never intended to be only for black and brown folk. They were designed to be very different and to be broad to include everybody. So that's number one. We have to understand race is the motivating factor. No thing about eliminating discrimination. That's a talking point. Number two, there was never any intent to implement SB17. I ask every member of the media to go and get a copy of Creighton's letter. So what we have here, this is what we need to understand. Okay. The legislature passed SB17 under the false pretenses that we've mentioned. Universities were given until January 1st to comply. And the universities took it seriously. The universities have conservative general counsels, and they put together committees, and they conducted audits to determine what parts or components of any of their personnel or the things that they were doing were problematic under SB17. And they had the guidance at every step of the way, okay, of their general counsel's offices. And they went through and came up with plans. And those plans were modified and changed and amended. But what happened was, after all that, the universities removed people from DEI positions. They eliminated DEI things that they needed to eliminate. They even overcompensated, because what they did, when you look at what occurred here, several things I think that are important. When you look at what the definition of DEI is, they eliminated programs that had nothing to do with DEI.
That's right.
Programs that preceded DEI for many years. You take the Monarch program at the University of Texas. It was clearly not a DEI program. And we have it on reliable information that the university knew this and understood this, but still included that on the list. Number two, the bill provides escape hatches where the university can say we need to maintain our accreditation. We need to maintain our research and grant funding. So there are these exceptions that are in the bill that are provided for. But what happened is the universities were afraid to pull the trigger on that. They didn't salvage programs because of that. It was as if it didn't exist. And then thirdly, there was the exemption for student programs. Student programs have been slaughtered all around the state. That exemption in SB17 has been completely disregarded to the consequence of harming our students. So, and then the Creighton letter comes, and the Creighton letter said a couple things that I think I want everybody to know and understand. The Creighton letter said, we don't think you're doing enough. Now, the universities have gone through these great exercises with some of the best minds in our state and in the country, and they've decided they comply with SB17. But you have this willy-nilly letter that comes out telling the universities they're not complying. And what did it do? It threatens them. It threatens them. It says two things that I think you need to understand. One is that we don't think that you are complying with the law. We think you just changed names of functions of personnel responsibilities. That's not true. That's false. There's no basis for that. Number two, the threat was that we will either yank your funding, or we're going to send in the state auditor that's controlled by the lieutenant governor and others, and they're going to audit your campus. And so what do you think the universities are going to do? The letter said we needed more heads, and so heads need to roll. And so even though you've done due diligence in complying. Now, finally, this bill is about making white privilege the law, and the universities around our state are losing their standing in the academic community. What we find in that even at universities like the University of Texas are turning back and giving back research grants. It's going to really undermine its status. We know that the accreditation bodies require shared governance. Shared governance is not occurring. So we understand that this Tier 1 university at the University of Texas is really being diminished. But other universities are being diminished in the exact same way because of the requirements of the law. So we want you to know the real truth, because we're going to follow this right-wing extreme agenda that's biased against black and brown folk to run our universities in the ground so they can eliminate people who don't think like them. You know, it's so funny to hear them talk about the need to have free speeches and allow all voices to be heard across the hall this morning when they are doing nothing but trying to silence speech on our campuses. The UT 60, I met with a number of them yesterday, and one of them said to me, you know, I feel like a victim. I feel like I am a victim in order to advance someone's political agenda. And that's what they are. They're like the crystal masons of this moment. People needed to make a point and all that. So we have all these really tremendous people that have been terminated and have lost their jobs for no reason other than a previous association. Clearly, I think this is a violation of their rights, because if it's previous affiliation in a previous position or previous speech that you engaged in, we think they're clear free speech violations. So those are concerns that we have. Let me now turn it over to, I guess we'll have our students. And Siobhan, you want to come up with our students from Texas Southern?
I'm not sure, okay. Senator Mendez, do you have to run?
Senator. Okay. No, Senator, come on. Let Senator Menendez.
Let me bring up Senator Menendez, and I want to bring up my colleague, Representative Cheryl Cole, and Representative Lulu Flores. I want you to know that the legislators fought hard against this, because Gary's right. This is nothing but a solution in search of a problem. Our diversity is our strength. And they're threatened by black and brown folks in classrooms. You know what they're not threatened by? What they want to see? They want to see black bodies on the football field and on the basketball court. But they don't want us in the classroom. They don't want us teaching. They don't want for us to be in academia, but they want us to be entertaining. And so we are here today to send Governor Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Patrick, and all the MAGA extremists a message that we're not going back. We've made much progress in this country on the backs of those who made tremendous sacrifices. And DEI programs were designed to remedy past discrimination, where it wasn't that long ago that students who looked like us couldn't go to the University of Texas at Austin. It was just recent history that black and brown people were able to matriculate no matter what their GPA was, because of Jim Crow laws that prevented black and brown students from matriculating to those predominantly white institutions. So DEI programs were designed, they're not affirmative action programs, they're designed to help remedy some of those past discrimination that existed. We have a long history in this country, and we made some progress because of these DEI programs. And Governor Abbott, in his haste to out MAGA, Governor DeSantis in Florida created this nonsense. It all started from the right-wing extremists that were catering to the far right-wing white supremacists, the worst in this society. That's what this is all about, y'all. They're using black and brown people as pawns. And they're trying to divide us with all of this other rhetoric, when the truth of the matter is that there was no problems. We didn't come into the last legislative session that there are some problems in our universities and we need to fix it. That didn't happen. I'll tell you what happened. It was February because we were about to celebrate Black History Month. Governor Abbott there was an email that came out that he sent out that talked about looking at and ending DEI. That's what happened, y'all. Why? Why did that happen? Was there a problem? You can hear from the academics to talk about that. There was no problem. This was Governor Abbott playing to the far right base. Governor DeSantis had this anti-woke agenda that ended DEI, African-American studies in Florida, and he could simply not be outdone. It breaks my heart that there are more African-Americans in Texas than any other state in the country. And this should be something that we should be celebrating. Our diversity, Hispanics, 95% of the growth over the last decade per the 2020 census was because of African-American, Hispanic, and Asians. So Texas is a fast growth state. It's stimulated our economy, made our Texas one of the best places to live, work, and play. Governor Abbott is doing carnal damage to that reputation. I've already had people say, hey, you know what? We're not going to bring our convention to Texas, just like it happened in Florida. And so they want to have this false notion of, anti-Semitism. And I'm glad that Gary brought that up, because guess what? The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP, was co-founded by African-American and Jewish community. I'm a proud national board member, along with Gary. We serve on the national board of the NAACP, and we work collaboratively with our Jewish counterparts. So this is nonsense, y'all. This is what they call a smokescreen, right? A pretext, trying to divert the real conversation by making you think it's something else. Yes, we do think that students have a right to free speech. That's the foundation of our country. And if they want to protest against a war that they think is wrong, and if they want to call for a ceasefire, that's their right to do it. Many people died and fought for that right that we have as American citizens. And we tend to, as Governor Abbott says, should express our right to protest and First Amendment right to free speech. But here we are right now, where we've seen students being negatively impacted. My daughter is a student at UT Austin, and I've seen the kind of stress and the kind of strain that it's had on her and her counterparts, and it breaks my heart. Any person of good conscience should not allow, whether you're Black, Hispanic, Asian, LGBTQ, people of good conscience should stand on the right side of history and say enough is enough. Not on our watch, Governor Abbott, will we allow you to go back. We're past those dark days. We were moving in the right direction. Let's not let him divide us on race or socioeconomic status. Let us not let him use us as political pawns. Let's, of all good conscience, people of all races come together and stand in solidarity and say no more Governor Abbott, no more Lieutenant Governor Patrick, no more MAGA extremists. Not on our watch will we allow you to tear our state apart. And so I want to bring up Senator Menendez. And then I want to bring up our vice chair of the House Education Committee, who was my appointee as chair to co-chair our committee that really was on the front line working with the students. And they were sold a bill of goods. They were told on the House floor by the Chairman Kemple, no terminations, right? They'll reassign the professors. We know that was all BS now, right? But you're going to hear it. So we're here today because we're sick and tired of being sick and tired. We're not going to be treated as second-class citizens. We're not going back, no matter how much white supremacists want to send us back. We're here, and we have a voice, and we have a seat at the table. And we're going to use our seat at the table to stand up for the rights of those who don't have a voice. So, Senator Menendez, thank you for being on the front lines in the Senate, working with the Legislative Black Caucus, working with the Mexican-American Legislative Caucus, LULAC, and the NAACP, standing in solidarity. Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Menendez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon. Yes, my name is Jose Menendez, State Senator from San Antonio, District 26, also the chair of the Senate Hispanic Caucus. So I've been sitting all morning across the way in the Senate Education Higher Ed Subcommittee. so, yeah, we had an earlier part that was dealing with the protests, and they were conflating anti-Semitism with the protest, and in many ways inappropriately so. I think many of the students were protesting a war, protesting crimes against students, protesting inhumanity shown to children and to civilians. Now we're on the issue of DEI, and Gary mentioned it so eloquently, where he said that this DEI situation is really an attempt to wash out any programs whatsoever that would make universities more welcoming to people of diverse backgrounds, make them easier to access by people that have had a difficult time to access higher education, make them not more inclusive, but more exclusive. And so it has been interesting to listen to the fact that they've got the two chancellors of the UT and the A&M system up there with their general counsels, and they're asking them about how many people have lost their jobs. They're asking them about what they've done with the money. They're really prodding and they're poking and they're digging deep to make sure that they are just carving out any semblance of anything that could help anybody. And the sad part of it is that, if you think about this, and the chairman mentioned it, 95% of all growth in Texas over the last 10 years is minority growth.
That's right.
We're now a minority majority state.
That's right.
There are over 5.4 million kids in our public school system today, most of them people of color. And so, there's a cartoon out there that I discuss and we put up on our social media that it's three children who are trying to watch a ball game, and there's a big fence, and one of them is very tall and he can see the game, and the other one's sort of medium height. He only needs one box to stand on to see the game, but the other one's really short and needs a couple of boxes. And if you give him those two boxes, and you give him that one box to the kid in the middle, now you've got equity.
That's right.
But what we need is justice.
That's right.
We need justice. We need to tear down the walls that are separating us from the game. And so what happens is they talk about this DEI being somehow discriminatory to certain people. It's not discriminatory when you're actually trying to level the playing field.
Yes.
Some of our families just need directions to the game. We don't need any help once we get there. Our kids can perform just as well as anyone else, but they need to know how to get in. They need help with the FAFSA form. They need help with the applications. They need help knowing that they are eligible to be there, that they count, that they are worth being there. And that's what DEI offices were doing for so many. And they were doing it for those students, those professors who were thinking about, do I stay in this field? Do I try to become a PhD? Is it worth it? They were also showing them that you have a shot as well. And that's the problem that I see with tearing down these DEI initiatives. You're trying to shut the door down. It almost feels like, no, there's enough of y'all already. We don't need any more.
Yep.
And we just need to keep it the way it is. And I think that we have got to step forward. We've got to step up as a society and see the picture for what it is. Don't allow buzzwords to convince you, because there's somebody that famously they use the word reverse discrimination. That's one of the things they're going to try to tell you. There is no such thing as reverse discrimination. Discrimination is discrimination, period. Okay? So now, if you're going to claim that, if you're going to try to say that you're being discriminated against, and you can't claim that and claim meritocracy at the same damn time. Either your kid didn't have it or they did have it. And this has all started happening when it got harder and harder for certain people to send their kids to A&M and UT because they weren't in the top 10%. And now more and more of those kids in top 10% were starting to look more and more diverse, like the state of Texas.
That's right.
And when certain families couldn't get their people in there, then all of a sudden, oh, shoot, we got to do something about it. And that's where we are. That's why we're here. And that's the sadness of all this. So now, how's this going to change? It's going to change with us showing up. We got to show up. Look, one of the saddest times I have is every January when everybody comes in with their shiny faces and their, all brand new suits and outfits and stuff, and asking for what legislation are we going to pass. This is our agenda, and they're all excited and stuff. And I have to look at them. I go, I'm really sorry to tell you, but the fate of your legislation was decided in November.
That's right. That's right.
In November,
Yep.
the day the election was decided who's going to be sitting in those seats in the House and the Senate, that's when the fate of your legislation got decided. So if you want to make a difference, show up in November.
That's right. Thank you, Senator Menendez. Representative Cole.
My name is Cheryl Cole, and I represent House District 46 right here in Austin. And I sit on the Higher Education Committee. And I'm pleased to tell you that Senate Bill 17 has been put on the interim charges. And I expect that we will have testimony from many of the universities, and I plan to challenge that. Why they haven't implemented any of the exceptions that we fought hard to include in the bill. And it is simply a case of the right-wing extremists having control of this Capitol, and I ask you to go out and vote and stop it.
Hi, I'm Lulu Flores, and I represent House District 51 here in Southeast Travis County. And I'm just here to show up and show support for the programs that existed under the diversity, equity, and inclusion. And if you just read those 3 words, they're very simple. And the programs that were under those auspices were very simple. They were to help level playing fields. They were to make campuses more welcoming, and they were talking about making sure we celebrate diversity, not demonize it, and we also to make sure we were being inclusive in our campuses. So I just want to say that and to Cheryl's point, we fought hard, and they were not exceptions, they were protections, because we knew that what they were doing was wrong, and so they assured us that certain programs that didn't discriminate, that were welcoming, were protected, and they have denied us that. And so I'm happy to hear that my colleague Cheryl Cole is going to be hard on those universities and making sure that why aren't they fighting for protecting those programs that are doing a good job in making sure that our campuses are welcoming and inclusive. Thank you.
All right.
Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Gloria Leal. I'm a president of LULAC 650 here in Austin. I'm also president of National LULAC. I'm also, general counsel, first woman general counsel for National LULAC. The League of United Latin American Citizens, LULAC, is the oldest, largest Hispanic advocacy organization in the state and in the nation. We advocate for the rights of minorities, particularly Hispanics, their civil rights, education reform, health reform, you name it, we do it. We are a nonpartisan organization. We have councils in just about every member state, and we vote. And our message coincides with the previous speakers. If you don't get out in November and bring 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of your friends to vote, it doesn't make a difference how clean and pretty and organized your agenda is for the spring. Okay? It just doesn't make any difference. I'm proud to state that Representative Lulu Flores is a member of LULAC, and so is Senator Menendez. You have powerful leaders in our organization. We are here today. I'm here with the consent of the national and state LULAC president, vehemently imposed against the overreaction to the DEI implementation taken at the public institutions. We oppose Senate Bill 17 during the session, and we oppose its over-implementation at the public institutions here in Texas. I particularly take issue with the University of Texas at Austin taking these drastic steps. I'm a graduate of UT Law School. I have a nephew that just graduated, and I have a niece at UT. They all got in on the merits. Don't misunderstand. It's not about the merits. But once you're here, this university used to foster a community of inclusion, diversity, not just for Hispanics, for other groups. How come they don't talk about the other groups they have a presence at the university? And it's really sad that my nephew, who graduated from high school under COVID, didn't have a graduation, is graduating this year, is now seeing this division on campus that didn't used to occur. Well, he didn't have a first-year campus. He got classes in the room, in the dorm. So we oppose it. We're going to fight any effort. We ask that the University of Texas here in Austin take lead. If our #1 university in the state does not take the lead,
That's right.
what do you think the other schools are doing? And sure enough, another UT institution followed UT Austin. So let's press hard. Let's try to get into UT Austin. All the other schools too, but let's get into UT and make a difference. And we stand here with our partners opposing the over-implementation of DEI ban. Thank you very much.
Now we'll hear from the professors.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brian Evans. I'm the president-elect of the Texas Conference of the American Association of University Professors, or AAUP. We're affiliated with the Texas American Federation of Teachers. Senate Bill 17 was always a solution in search of a problem, and Texas AUP has been opposed to it since its inception. Texas AUP champions professors having the freedom to teach so that students have the freedom to learn. Free inquiry, free expression, and open dissent are critical for student learning and the advancement of knowledge. Learning is about more than textbooks and lectures and tests. To learn, students must feel comfortable and safe sharing their perspectives and bringing their full selves to every class. They cannot do so in the chaotic environment Senate Bill 17 has created. This state has a goal outlined in its Building a Talent Strong Texas plan that at least 60% of Texans aged 25 to 34 have a certificate or degree by 2030. We will not meet this plan with the harmful, unnecessary roadblocks like Senate Bill 17, which destabilize the learning environments on our college and university campuses and send a message to students from underserved communities that they are not welcome. Simultaneously, Texas higher education institutions, which built reputations of excellence over many years, are losing their prestige and credibility in the eyes of fellow academics across the country. If SB 17 were to be reversed tomorrow, it would be a long, hard road to make our universities competitive again in recruiting top teaching talent. Without a reversal, our students will continue to lose highly qualified, effective professors, both from attrition and the near impossibility of recruiting instructors from other states. Thank you.
Now, we save the best for last. The most important are the students. And you can't think about the civil rights movement and the freedom riders without thinking about the students like the SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee led by John Lewis. These students are to be commended for not just being, working hard, diligently going to class, but these students now carry the burden of Senate Bill 17 and the negative impact that it's had on them and their colleagues. And these students aren't just students, but they're student leaders that are willing to speak truth to power. They're willing to get outside of their comfort zone. They don't hold elected officials or titles, but these are students who know that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And I want to commend these students as they come forward to share their experience, to give their testimony, and to put a face on this anti-DEI movement and the kind of calamity that it's had. So let's receive the students in whatever order they choose to speak.
My name is Lacey Reynolds, and I'm a senior at the University of Texas at Austin. And the environment on my campus is nothing close to normal, and at times very hectic. Instead of celebrating diversity, the University of Texas has used their students, their faculty, their staff, and their professors as political pawns. And that's just really terrible for students who are interested in looking at attending the University of Texas at Austin. We've had several students who are juniors and seniors in high school reach out to upperclassmen and students at the university, wondering if UT is a safe place. Their parents wonder if they should send their students and their children to the University of Texas. And it's not because the university it's not because they can't get in, it's not because of academic rigor, but safety of their children. And honestly, being a student at the University of Texas at Austin, it doesn't make me as proud to say that I attend at this time. Watching the news, being a student leader, very difficult, very draining. watching our professors, our faculty, and our staff who are family away from home, see them lose their jobs, see them lose their livelihoods after putting years into the university, attending the university, being like second parents to some of the students, seeing them lose, like I said, their livelihoods has just been very uncomfortable. The environment for professors who are still here, they're afraid, the students are afraid, and we really just don't know what to do. As we know, the university has overcomplied with this bill, and they seem to want to continue to overcomply with this anti-diversity, equity, and inclusion bill. So the students at the University of Texas, we ask that administration, they come together and they stand up for their students rather than standing up for their own political agendas.
Hello, my name is Quinteria Randall. I attend Prairie View A&M University. It is one of the 2 HBCUs in Texas. With this DEI ban, it begs the question, what happens to HBCUs in Texas? As a student who has been impacted positively by DEI programs at my school, and as a biology major with dreams and aspirations to go to medical school, how can we level the playing field if I am not receiving the proper learning and the proper education through DEI programs to ensure that I will be an active member and a proper doctor towards the society? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Keyshawn Sanders, and I'm a senior at Texas Southern. As my colleague said, at HBCUs, it's kind of hard being equal with people at PWIs. So now with this DEI ban, is it going to be, they kind of, how do you say, they're limiting us more, like taking more funds from us that we already don't have. And if this isn't settled, how are we going to continue?
And Antonio Ingram from the Legal Defense Fund.
Good afternoon. My name is Antonio Ingram. I am an assistant counsel at Legal Defense Fund. We were founded in 1940 by Justice Thurgood Marshall, and we are a nonpartisan racial justice organization who's been on the ground in this fight since its inception. We've been working with professors and students to really oppose Senate Bill 17, and since it went into effect, have really monitored implementation. We're here at this hearing because we have grave concerns about the way in which the scope of this bill is being over-implemented. It is having deleterious impacts on queer communities, on Black and brown communities across the state. And, it's really, I think, quite troubling. This week is the 70th anniversary of the Brown v. Board decision, which Legal Defense Fund litigated. And to us, DEI is how you effectuate integration. DEI is how you create more belonging for students and faculty who are subject to state-sanctioned exclusion. We talk about evening the playing field. We have to talk about why it wasn't even in the first place. It was not arbitrary. There were laws that created this level of disparity. And DEI is a way to remediate those historical tools of oppression and historical disparities that we still see persist today. We're here today to testify at this hearing to remind college and university leadership that even though Senate Bill 17 is the law in Texas currently, there are still federal obligations that they must comply with. The U.S. Constitution is still good law. Title VI and Title IX is still operative. And we are really concerned about the way in which this bill and now law has become really an attack on diverse communities and their civil rights. To us, this is not a partisan fight. This is about people's dignity, their sense of belonging, and their right to be full citizens of the state where they pay taxes. Thank you.
And we have one last speaker before we open up for questions, and this is someone who worked diligently with us as well. everyone back here has been on the front line since the inception of Senate Bill 17. Dr. Venezuela has started the Black-Brown Dialogue. She's been a transformational leader for the students, bringing Black and brown students together. I want to bring her up now. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction. I also want to make sure that my colleague Alicia Perez-Hodge, we're both with LULAC, and LULAC is on the ground in civil rights. I'm, like Alicia, a member of the Education Committee for the state of LULAC. I'm also a professor at the University of Texas, and I'm a concerned member of the public, just as I'm a citizen as well. I have children, grandchildren, we have community, we have friends, many who have been targeted and they're clear victims of Senate Bill 17. They're paying dearly with the loss of their positions, their relationships, their networks, their status. It's extreme what is happening right now. I thought what I would do in just the few minutes that I have is to suggest that what we see happening afoot is this larger agenda to silence, in particular, our Gen Z youth, but also our younger millennials who are becoming increasingly of voting age. Over 880,000 Hispanics, for example, turn 18 every single year. And the desire is abundantly clear to many of us that the motivation is to hurt them and to hurt our youth. These hurtful campaigns take many forms. They get manifest passive aggressively in the form of withholding school funding. That has got to stop. And turning everything, education, into a market. Are y'all keeping up with Mike Miles and the takeover of HISD? Check out the news. This gets manifest assertively and aggressively by attacking our youth in the form of physical and psychological violence, as we've witnessed in recent days. That has to stop, as well as in the form of book bans, abortion bans, the banning of programs, and ultimately the banning of people. These are the politics of banishment that is unbecoming of a democracy, much less of our governing bodies here in the state of Texas. This is so disrespectful. The 60 or so people who were terminated at UT are part of our Central Texas community. We cross each other at the grocery store, in public events, public gatherings. Such mischaracterizations of them as pushing an agenda, excuse me, they are providing support. And how harmful is it to suggest otherwise and to suggest that we need to take them down because they are politically correct advocates, social justice advocates. And what's so bad about being socially just anyway? Why is that a dirty word in this building? So I really want y'all to understand that the attack on Gen Z and younger millennials, this is a generational attack. If you go to the Heritage Foundation and you look up their handbook for the next 4 years of a Trump presidency, project2025.org, and just keyword the words eliminate and abolish, they are advancing a scorched earth policy, and they are calling it a generational battle. A generational battle. They are at war with our youth. Why? To preserve their incumbencies and power. Why? Because they feel that they are being replaced. The whole replacement theory we're looking at this in real life right now and how it is playing out. We are not replacing people. We're hardly even represented. What a false mischaracterization, right? We are hardly, I mean, we're losing faculty at the University of Texas right now. And we are not, like as in any university of higher education, in any large numbers represented as Black and brown people. And I can give you data on that if you want. So this attack on the DEI is an attack on young people. Young people, y'all got to wake up. This is an attack on Gen Z youth by boomers and Gen Xers who don't want to see you thrive. You trend positive, you also trend progressive. Keep doing what you do. All I want to say now is what we need to do is to plan for next session. So it's not all decided in January, which is too late, but beforehand to have a strategy that's definitely electoral, that involves the vote, but which also involves a repealing of this terrible bill, Senate Bill 17. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is our last speaker, and we'll open up for questions and answers.
Thank you. My name is Alicia Perez Hodge, and I'm here representing the League of United Latin American Citizens. We are United States citizens, and we expect to be treated that way. I'm here. I'm going to get a little personal, but I feel what they're doing is personal. Personal to me, personal to you. Anybody with some sort of skin tone, it's personal to you. And it's personal to people who want to be fair to others. Lyndon Baines Johnson, one of the greatest Texans alive, would look at this and would be ashamed of Brandon Creighton. He would be ashamed of him. All his work, Brandon Creighton wants to put to the side and say, no, that's not valuable. Well, I'm here to tell you it is. Not only, and people in Conroe, please listen up, Brandon Creighton, along with being the author of SB 17, has vehemently opposed the expansion of Medicare for poor Texans, for poor children. He's against providing health care to poor children. What kind of a man is that? He's certainly not a Christian man, that's for sure. He is a leader banning critical race theory because he doesn't want people to know what happened during slavery. He doesn't want the truth, and he doesn't want you to learn the truth. He wants to do away with tenure of the university professors. He is a supporter of school vouchers. He is a supporter of Operation Lone Star, spending billions of dollars when the foster care system is in shambles and children are dying. They're spending time on the border. No, the border is here. Take care of your children first. And he is a Trump supporter, a MAGA Republican, supporting a man who is a philanderer, who is a cheat, who is a liar. They worship him. They have substituted Trump for our Jesus Christ, and we're not going to stand for that, and we're going to speak out. And please come out to the Capitol today and speak out. Speak out for your rights. Speak out for Christianity. Speak out for freedom. Thank you.
I want to say those are really eloquent and powerful words, but we are nonpartisan, so we want you to know that.
So I love the passion. I love the passion. So we're going to take questions now. If the media has any questions, we'll start with you. You had your hand up first.
So I just want to get you all's reaction on some of the information that just came out of that Senate hearing that's happening down the hall. So the Chancellor testified that about $25 million has been reallocated. 311 part-time and full-time positions and 21 offices were also eliminated across UT systems as a result of SB17 compliance. What is you all's reaction hearing those hard numbers for the first time?
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna let you guys take a first stab at that.
Come on, Brian. I think we're the facts. And so what I've understood is that the monies are going to be directed toward instruction and research. What mystifies me and frankly disappoints me terribly is that it's not going back into student services. We may have heard today something along those lines, but that's not what the published statements by the university make. Which means that student support services, as you heard from the students, are gone. So where's the remedy for that?
Yeah, so the 60 staff, and 12 of which were faculty at UT Austin that were fired on April 2nd, were all in student services. There are also 15 associate deans who were also demoted. They were in student services. They were also helping faculty write grants for external money from federal government. So that's also been at jeopardy. We now have millions of dollars of grants now in jeopardy. We've had to return some grants. UT Austin had to return some grants. So it's a mess right now. This is a chaotic environment. So for the 60 people who were fired with no due process and no warning and no, for what? That they used to do DEI prior to January 1st. That all was removed before January 1st. So they were in student services roles in compliance with Senate Bill 17, and they were fired the same day. all those student services are gone. All the students don't have a substitute to go to. There is no other way they can get those services. They weren't duplicates.
And one quick thing, just looking ahead, someone brought up the interim charges in SB17 being put on the interim charges list. What are the next steps? I think a lot of people, who've been following DEI have heard a lot of back and forth regarding people who support it, people who don't. What are the next steps to officially, I guess, counter the DEI law that is in effect?
He's the right person.
Yeah, you can answer that question.
Well, I was just about to let them know we were live, but this is Senator Royce West, who has been on the Senate on the Education Committee, who was really one of the architects in fighting Senate Bill 17 as part of our Legislative Black Caucus. He's been one of the leaders and one of the co-chairs of our advocacy committee with Representative Cheryl Cole. And Senator Royce West, he may be able to, I know he may not have heard the full question, if you want to repeat it for him, but Senator West has been one of the most prolific voices in opposition to Senate Bill 17. So Senator West, we're going to put you right in the mix of the fire.
Senator West, I guess I'll address you directly. My photographer is over in there in the room. He's been texting me back and forth updates. He was just telling me that you were questioning the chancellor regarding the funding and the grants and whatnot. Can you provide an update on some of that information that you got regarding just where some of that money is going to be reallocated, regarding how they're going to be able to help students out?
Well, again, first of all, thank you for being here and everyone else being here on top of that. The reality is that they're looking at putting more money into quote unquote outreach and recruitment. We've heard that before. When I hear statements that DEI has been around 10 years, that's not true. In terms of the impetus for DEI funding took place after George Floyd's death, okay? And then the attack on DEI came about right after the attack on CRT, okay? And so we're not crazy. We know exactly what the history is. Now, the question is, should we continue to be using race? We've been using race for a long time, okay? And to sit up and say that race and sex and should not be used is kind of disingenuous when it's being used throughout history. The fact is that we've got to make certain that the monies that we're allocating, that those monies do in fact go towards recruiting, sincere recruiting, and there needs to be accountability. And there hasn't been accountability in this area. We keep coming back to this time after time again. We need to make certain that we start looking at zip codes more carefully in terms of recruiting, just like we recruit athletes. I often say, and I did say this when I had a battle with UT years ago, I would trade them a middle linebacker, okay? In terms of scholarships, I'll give you a middle linebacker. Just give me a scholarship for someone who wants to be an engineer. And that hasn't been occurring. And to the extent that there's good faith on the part of the legislators and the leadership of the state, then we may very well be able to make some changes. But until we see that, it's going to be the same old excuses over and over again. I'm hoping that it's not that way, but you can be assured that we'll continue to fight to make certain that these universities, public universities, opened up to all students regardless of where they come from.
And let me make one comment about the reuse of the money. If you mug someone on the street and take their money, but you go give a $100 bill to church, does that make it right? So what they did is essentially a mugging and harming these good people and harming the students that are there. The students that are there need support. You don't learn, as Brian Evans says, you don't learn in a vacuum. And so going to recruit additional students to go into a hostile environment is nonsensical. So you can't try to come out with a PR point and claim that you're going to spend some money to go out and recruit when you don't have the trust of the community anyway to actually recruit honorably. The University of Texas, what Brian Evans will tell you, this last year, they lost over half a percentage point of African-American students at the university. That's because of all this that's going on that people don't want to attend.
That's exactly right. I've got to get back over to the committee.
Well, thank you, Senator West, for standing strong. Any further questions from the media?
Can someone address the interim charges, the SB17, and dealing with the interim charges moving
It is already?
It has, yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're doing now.
The Senate is considering the interim charges on Senate Bill 17 now, and they have put by Speaker Dade Phelan on the interim charges for the House.
Are there any further questions from the media? Any final questions? If not, then that'll conclude this press conference. I want to thank the media for coming out and covering this very important topic. And I want to thank all the students that took time away from studying and finals to be here today, all of the stakeholders that are working in solidarity and working together cohesively to make sure that we address this real challenge for our state. We are all on the right side of history. We're going to urge our colleagues, particularly those on the far right, to denounce hate, denounce white supremacy, and do what's in the best interest of all the citizens of the state, even if it's not politically expedient. That's what statesmen do. You know, and when you mention Lyndon Baines Johnson, if you look at the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and the Civil Rights Act of 1964, two of the most pivotal pieces of legislation in this nation's history. He had to expend political capital because it wasn't politically expedient for him to do it. He was threatened that he would not be able to be the president. He lost friends that were segregationists, that were racist. Many of the people that supported him said that he would lose their support, but he stood on the right side. And here we are today, breaking barriers. You no longer have to guess how many bubbles in a bar of soap or pay poll taxes or literacy tests because of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. So we're now challenging in 2024 our colleagues to do what's not politically expedient, but do what's in the best interest of all of the citizens that make up this state, everyone that calls Texas home. And yes, that includes African Americans, that includes Hispanics, that includes Asians, that includes our LGBTQ community, our AAPI community. It includes everybody, because this is one Texas, not a white or black or Asian or Hispanic, but one Texas. That's what we hope that our colleagues will reconsider this heinous, harmful, dreadful legislation. And you've seen the impact on the students, the faculty and staff, and what it does to the state as a whole. So thank you all for being here. We will continue to press forward. We will continue to do everything that we can during the interim. But more importantly, we hope the citizens at home that are listening, that are tuning in, will pay attention, that will be engaged, and they will vote their values when it comes to the November 2024 election. Elections matter. Thank you.
That was great. That was great. That was great.